Now this fish pond, as with all aquariums or ponds, it really is a battle between algae and good bacteria. Now what we want is the good bacteria to win. That way the water will be nice and clear, we won't get too much algae, and the fish will be healthy and happy. Now as it is currently, the fish are relatively healthy and happy, but the algae is winning. So the algae is doing the filtration. What we want is the bacteria to do the filtration. So what I would want to do is get some like Kamahata mesh, koi mat, and put it in this top one. And then on a semi-regular basis, I would want to give that a clean. Then we've got a couple of trays here. I would want to put Marine Pure into these trays and fill these trays up with Marine Pure. Now, Marine Pure is the best biological media on the earth, and do not buy fake Marine Pure. You want to buy real Marine Pure. And the Marine Pure will offer parallel nitrifying and denitrifying bacteria in it. Now, the other thing is Marine Pure doesn't actually have to be in the filter. Marine Pure can just be in the pond. So I would probably be just as likely to buy a few litres of Marine Pure and throw them in that top pond up there. And then I'd probably put some matting in here. So this can be mechanical. It'll also probably reduce the sound a bit, because this is horrendously noisy. If you put the matting in there, it'll really muffle the sound a lot. So I would make this mechanical. I'd put biological in that top pond over there. Then I would put a new pond pump in the bottom, and that can pump the water around. Now there are various pond pumps on the market that you can look at that we can discuss, but having a pond pump to circulate the water, something around say around 9-10,000 litres an hour would be ideal to turn this water around, give you much better water flow. It's going to be much quieter than this stupid pump. You want to angle it up so it agitates the surface as it goes around, and the fish love swimming against the current too. So mechanical here, biological up there, and then better water flow down here. Now the other thing we have here is another UV sterilizer. So what I'm really wanting to do is run the UV sterilizers on low flow. So I would disengage the UV there, replace a tube in it, mount it up here in line with this one, both with new tubes in it. That one is going to run off this pump, which, yeah, that's much better. That's much less.
So why is the water coming this way?
Because at the moment he's got two pumps running. He's got one pump that's running from there to here, and then he's got one pump running from there to here. Now also that if we leave this long enough, we may have just found out why your water leaked out. So with any of these Bob's Your Uncle do-it-yourself made filters, the disadvantage is that things can go wrong. So in a perfect world, if you just swap this over for just a good old pressure filter, then there's no way it can overflow or leak like what's going on here now. So there was a situation where this pond drained, and so it would seem apparent that the reason why this pond drained is because this filter has clogged up and overflowed, and therefore the water has managed to escape. So as functional as this may be, the risk is that it can leak, as we're seeing right now. So I'd be tempted just to get an Awasa filter. The reason why I love Awasa is that they're so easy to backwash and clean, and they do an absolutely wonderful job. So we can make do with this and hope it doesn't leak again, or we can just replace this for an Awasa and be done with it. So with these Bob's Your Uncle do-it-yourself pond filters, as much as technically they do work, the disadvantage is that, let's say we go and put mesh in it now and we make it a functional filter, because right now it's completely empty. And the reason why it might be empty is either the owners took the old biological media out, or it could be that the owners knew that it overflowed, so therefore they just emptied it to reduce the chance of it overflowing once they sold the house. So if you go putting Kamahata mesh or koi mat or anything in there, if you're not cleaning that mat regularly, then it's going to overflow. And then if it does overflow, then obviously there is a chance of draining your pond, which is not as fun as you'd think. So if it was up to me, I would replace this. I would put a decent size Awasa filter in it, and then I'd be done with it. It's not something I'd have to worry about ever again. Whereas with these Bob's Your Uncle do-it-yourself mate filters, there are issues that can occur, such as draining your pond, and that has already happened in the first 2 weeks of moving into this house. So I'd rather just do it properly and not worry about it. Now, as far as considering a replacement filter for this pond, so at the moment we've got a homemade job just over there, which I'm particularly concerned about constant leaking problems. So in regards to options to replace it, cheapest option would be Pond 1, and Pond 1 have got some very cheap all-in-one pond filters. Now, you're going to get a way better result than what you've got now, because it will be a fully functioning filter. But if it was up to me, I'd get an Awasa. The reason why I'd specifically go for an Awasa is that the backwash function is unbelievable. It is very easy to clean, and the results you get from an Awasa just are so good it just doesn't even make sense. The Awasa is not 1 + 1 = 2. It's somehow 1 + 1 = 10. So if it was up to me, I would just bite the bullet, get a nice big Awasa, chuck it there. There's different sizes that come in different price ranges, of course. But ultimately, the bigger the filter you get, the larger your biological capacity. Therefore, the more fish you can have and the less often you need to clean it. So if you got one of the smaller models, it would certainly suit this pond, but I would be looking at getting the biggest model I can, because it's just one of those situations where you never regret buying a bigger one. Now, if you want to work out the literage of your pond, if you go average length times average width by average height, that's going to give you rough literage if you do it in centimeters divided by 1,000. So getting an understanding of how many liters are in your pond is a really good idea. And then as far as adding some marine pure to the pond, all I would need you to do is drop the marine pure in here, and then make sure the water is circulating around the marine pure, and it would work. I'd be wanting to get my net and scoop out as much crap before I threw the marine pure in. If you really wanted to, you could put the marine pure in a basket or a bag or something like that. And if you just worked out the amount of literage in the pond, then we can do the calculation of how much marine pure to go in. And it really is a matter of the more the better. So if you didn't want to spend the money and get all the marine pure, we're going to be in a much better situation with you having some marine pure. But once we work out the volume, we can then look at how much to throw in here. Now, there's another pond pump there that needs cleaning desperately. Now, we've just put a pump in there that was running the filter for kinetic energy. And you can see the kinetic energy in the pond now is absolutely awesome, but probably a little bit on the too powerful side. So whenever that happens, what you can do is move the pump. So instead of just jetting down here, I'll move it that way so it jets into the wall. That way I'll bounce a lot of the water off, and then I should be able to very much calm this down. So the kinetic energy right now is absolutely fabulous, but and the fish are loving it, but probably just a little bit on the strong side. So angling it into the wall would be how we're going to reduce the amount of kinetic energy we're getting. Now, I've just redirected the pump from aiming down here, which was really churning the whole pond up, and I've just changed it and bounced it into that wall. And now that I've bounced it into that wall, the water is nowhere near it's not moving as aggressively, And also we've got some fairly quiet pockets now. So let's say the fish did want to be out of the flow. This area here is really not so aggressive because the pump is shooting that way. So as far as kinetic energy is concerned now, I'm very, very happy with this pond. And the fish are visibly loving it. And the algae hates this. The good water flow, increased oxygen, increased redox potential. This is all the algae's enemy. Especially once we've got some good biological media. Plenty of marine pure up here. And then we'll start winning this war. But everything that you change biologically takes time to show up. Now the other thing of interest too is this pond has a little section here which would have been for a pump. Now this would be acting as a nursery because in this case there's lots of leaves, they fall off in here, so therefore this is sort of pointless. The idea with this is you put your pump in there and that way the pump gets a bit of protection so it doesn't clog up with crap. But where this is positioned right now underneath the plants, this is completely pointless. But this would actually be a great little nursery for baby fish, and there is little fish in there right now. So this is actually working as a little nursery for your baby fish, like that little fella. Pretty cool. And I'm very happy with the flow now. Now you remember earlier on I was talking about the air pump. Now with the amount of surface agitation that this pond now has, the air pump would be absolutely useless. It wouldn't do a damn thing. So I'd pull these straight out now, these obnoxious airlines, and I would not worry about replacing the air pump because this is going to be functionally perfect and you're going to easily absorb, achieve oxygen saturation because of the amount of water flow here. So the air pump is no longer needed. Now we just removed the other pump and put it there. That goes up through our homemade filter, which is now delivering water back into this top pond. So if we had some marine pure in this top pond, and if we, so there's our biological media. We've got very good oxygen because we've done this. We don't need to replace the air pump, which is a big noisy pain in the ass, now gone. I'd get rid of those silly looking CDs even though they're there to distract birds. I'd lose them. And the other thing I would consider doing is the UV currently is on. I would remove that UV and put it in this line. So I'd have both UVs in that line. And this should really be quite functional. Now the other thing to be aware of is water changes. So I would want to be, considering how easy it is to water change this pond, I would want to be doing water change on a semi-regular basis, let's say at least once a month. Now, the cheating way to do a water change on this pond is just open that up. And then that just puts a bit of water down the drain. And that's a great way to knock a bit of water off the top. And then you can just throw the hose in and refill it again. Now, what you don't want to do is throw the hose in and forget about it. Because if you throw the hose in and forget about it, you're going to chlorine flush your fish. Now this house has tank water, so therefore chlorine isn't really a problem. But at the same time, you don't want to just turn on the hose and forget about it. So you can get top-up systems that are available. You could get your plumber to install something like that. Our waterfall's functioning again, which is nice. So that's all thanks to that pump turning back on again. Now the best way to do a water change would be if we got ourselves a bit of real fat pipe and we actually ran that fat pipe to somewhere that a bunch of crap can go. And then we started a siphon and went and actually siphoned all the crap out of this pond. That is the best way to do it. Now, that's not the not the easiest way to do it, but it's definitely the best just by siphoning the crap physically out. If that's not possible, then netting the crap out is going to be possible. But the more regularly we can get this crap out of this pond, the cleaner the pond's going to stay. If we can rethink even the plants that are growing here, if we could get less residual plants, then we've got less leaves in the pond. That's another thing to think about. So the idea is look at what are the nutrients going into the pond and how can we control them. So therefore good quality food is going to help, and looking at what plants are around the pond. If we don't have a choice and we do have residual trees or residual plants, the idea is just grab your net and scoop them out. More regularly is better. So we've done a whole lot of little improvements to this pond. Improving the quality of the food is going to make a big difference. Netting out any leaves and stuff regularly is going to make a big difference. Netting out any algae and crap is going to make a big difference. We've reduced a powerful pump that was running up into that filter, and we've created kinetic energy in the pond. We've turned off the air stone because we no longer need it. We can consider mechanical media to put into that filter, as long as we're actually cleaning it every now and then so it doesn't overflow. We've got this fountain on to give us oxygen. We want that on 24/7. We're going to add some marine pure to the base of this filter to increase our biological filtration. Now the question is, when will the water clear? So at the moment the water is nice and green, but over time, as good bacteria wins, then the water will clear. If algae is winning, the water will stay green. As the good bacteria wins, the algae will die off, and then the pond will clear up. But you must be patient. This is going to take time. It is not the case where you think you can just make a difference and see the difference. You need to make a change, and then it takes, if not months, to actually really see a difference. Replace the UV tubes, add more biological media, and make one change at a time, and then be patient, because biological lag takes time, and all changes take time to see.